Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Street Genius, Part 13. And soon the prince came to the conclusion that his grand idea, like his father's, was in fact a fucking terrible idea. He should probably go to do something else instead. Totally confused, the prince cleaned himself up and went and found a big tree near a river. He decided that he would sit under that tree and got up until he came up with another grand idea. As the legend goes, the confused prince sat under the tree for 49 days. We won't delve into the biological viability of sitting in the same spot for 49 days, but let's just say that in that time, the prince came to a number of profound realizations. One of those realizations was this, that life itself is a form of suffering. The rich suffer because of their riches. The poor suffer because of their poverty. People without a family suffer because they have no family. People with a family suffer because of their family. People who pursue worldly pleasures suffer because of their worldly pleasures. People who abstain from worldly pleasures suffer because of their abstention. Suffer because of their abstention. This isn't to say that all of the suffering is equal. Some suffering is certainly more painful than the other suffering, but we all must suffer nonetheless. Years later, the prince would build his own philosophy and share it with the world, and this would be its first and central tenet that pain and loss are inevitable and we should let go of trying to resist them. The prince would later become known as the Buddha, and in case haven't heard of him, he was kind of a big deal. There is a premise that underlies a lot of our assumptions and beliefs. The premise is that happiness is algorithmic, that it can be worked for and earned and achieved as if it were getting accepted to law school or building a reality complicated Lego set. If I achieve X, then I can be happy. If I look like Y, then I can be happy. If I can be with a person like Z, then I can be happy. Then I can be happy. This premise, though, is the problem. Happiness is not the solvable equation. Dissatisfaction and unease are inherent parts of human nature, as we'll see, necessary components of creating consistent happiness. The Buddha argued this from the theological and philosophical perspective. I will make the same argument in this chapter, but I will make it from a biological perspective and with pandas. The misadventures of disappointment panda. If I could invent a superhero, I would invent one called Disappointment Panda. He would wear a cheesy eye mask and a shirt with a giant capital T on it. That was way too small for his big panda belly. And his superpower would be to tell people harsh truths about themselves that they needed to hear but didn't want to accept. He would go door to door like a Bible salesman and ring doorbells and say things like, sure, making a lot of money makes you feel good, but it won't make your kids love you. Or if you have to ask yourself if you trust your wife, then you probably don't. Or what you consider friendship is really just your constant attempts to impress people. Then he would tell the homeowner to have a nice day and saunter on down to the next house.